Hello and welcome to another edition of AI Impact Talk with me, Thembekile Mrototo. Today we're talking all things Apple intelligence in business. And we're joined by iStore's business executive head, Sudesh Pillay, to take us through the various aspects of this. We've been focusing throughout the series on how AI is impacting or infiltrating, in fact, all facets of life, not just in South Africa, but all over the globe. And right at the forefront of what we've seen in terms of innovation is the iStore team. So Sudesh, welcome to AI Impact Talk. Good to have you. Apple intelligence, break that down for us, especially in the context of the business space.
Oh, I think we need to premise a few elements before we get into that. I mean, I think we've all been exposed to this AI acronym for quite a while now, and we all sort of make our own definitions about what AI is.
Sometimes incorrectly.
Yeah, exactly. I think the reality is the sort of AI we've been exposed to up until now is what we call generative AI. And most prominently sort of ChatGPT, where you prompt a computer for an answer or a response, and you get some kind of feedback back. And then what's sort of subsequently happened with that is the product has evolved, but really that product is based on machine learning philosophy or machine learning platform. So essentially, every so often, that large language model, or LLM as we call it, needs to be updated with new content so that it can give you more relevant, up-to-date information.
For most of us, when we think Apple, though, when you go to an iStore and you've got a business purchase in mind, the Mac is right at the top of the list. So how does it fit into that ecosystem?
So it fits into all elements of the Apple ecosystem, not just the Mac, but also the iPad and the iPhone. I think Apple has come under a lot of criticism of being late to the AI game, and not being at the forefront of where ChatGPT was, or Microsoft from a Copilot perspective. The reality is Apple's been in the AI game for quite a while. They just didn't announce it as the AI game. A lot of people don't know that Siri was your first form of artificial intelligence. It was your first form of machine learning. You could ask Siri a question and Siri would give a response, or it would go to the internet, find a response, and then give it back to you. Where we now are is that Apple has taken a sort of a different approach to artificial intelligence, in that it's integrated what they call Apple Intelligence, or AI tools, into the operating systems of its devices. It's really privacy focused, which is a key differentiator from other AI tools, meaning that it's going to be embedded in all levels of the operating system. So it's going to become part of the user experience. Apple has always been synonymous about user experience and how users interact with the products. So all of the AI tools that we currently use right now for image creation, for text generation, for any kind of refinement of our current work and our productivity, is going to be built into the system, and it's going to protect your data. So a lot of people don't understand right now is that when you ask ChatGPT something and you type in a question, or you paste some data into ChatGPT, you are actually training the LLM model. So if you put personal information into ChatGPT, on the next iteration of ChatGPT, your personal information is now going to become public. So,
and you touched on this earlier, the point about evolution from Siri to where we are now. How would you characterize the evolution, if you will, in terms of machine learning and AI?
I think what's key is that from an Apple perspective, I think since 2018 on the iPhone 13, we've had AI chips already built into Apple Silicon, and from the M1 Mac, which is 4 versions back, we're currently on the M4 Mac. All of those chips had built-in neural engines, which is a key component of AI, and where most of the evolution is happening right now in the tech space. It's all about the chip. It's all about the silicon. It's all about how much computational power and neural capacity you can put onto a chip. So companies like NVIDIA, companies like Tesla, Apple, Intel, AMD, all of these companies are now racing to develop a better chip, a high-performing chip, a faster chip, something that can, in AI we talk about TOPS, which is trillions of operations. And you have all of these stats coming out now about how many TOPS a chip is actually capable of. But really, that is the thinking power of the chip.
And how was it going to help people such as yourself answer the question of productivity? Because in business, that's what most people want now. Everyone wants to do as much as they can in as little time as possible.
Sure. From a business perspective, I think we see people as a wet towel and we're trying to wring as much out of them as possible, right? So AI is going to make you work a 16-hour day now because you're just going to find more capacity to do more things. But the reality of it, it's literally going to give you power to automate. It's going to give you the power to collaborate better. It's going to give you the power to communicate better. It's going to give you the power to sort of refine your current competencies and your work, all built into your natural workflow. So if you're typing an email out and you type an email and you just think to yourself, oh, it's not sort of being composed in the right way. It's not quite right. You'll have tools available to you to, change the tone of the email. And as that, the system learns the way you sort of communicate and the tone of language and the types of words you use, it's going to continuously sort of refine how you communicate, how you collaborate.
And that comes back to one of the issues you've spoken about a lot, actually, in the series, about AI and how ultimately what every company wants, every person wants, is to have a tool that is personalized, that is able to basically think for you, right? We're working long days, we've got a lot to do. You want something that makes all of that much easier, i.e. what you're saying with the writing tools where they're able to go, hang on a minute, this is Thembekile's writing style, and this is how Sudesh should word it. So let's basically work out something in that vein.
Yeah, and you'll always have a choice, right? And you can continuously refine it, and you continuously train the LLM to work a little bit better. Automation is a big thing, your ability to automate tasks. Siri is now going to be, and we're expecting huge developments over the next 6 months from an Apple Intelligence perspective. We're only in beta right now. We go live in December. And the features that are going to come out over the next 6 months to a year, I think in the wider industry is going to be, I don't know, it's unexpected. We don't even know what to expect because if you just look at how ChatGPT has evolved in the short space of time, if you look at what Elon Musk is doing with robotics and robots and sentient beings or whatever you want to call it, and Neuralink. I mean, I really don't know what the next 5 years hold in terms of the evolution of that. But purely from a personal productivity perspective, you're going to have all the tools in your hand to make your life easier, to literally have an assistant on any of your devices that you can instruct to do certain things. Siri is going to be able to collaborate across apps. So I can tell Siri, for the new features, yes, the new live features, I could ultimately tell Siri, look through my photos, find a photo of myself and Thembekile on the beach, compose an email to X, Y, and Z people, and send it in a high-res version without actually touching my device. And Siri is going to do all of that automatically for you. You can then create automatic repetitive tasks where you don't actually have to log onto your machine anymore because it's going to be a repetitive instruction that you've loaded onto your system, that every day a certain report is sent. So you don't have to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to compose that email to the boss. You can just automate it, right?
We live in hope.
Yeah. I mean, I think the major concern, from a business perspective is data. There's a lot of intellectual property. There's a lot of confidential data on systems. And I think that's a key differentiator from an Apple Intelligence perspective. I think Apple have invested a lot into having an on-device experience. ChatGPT currently in the cloud, you're literally going out to the internet with all of your information.
So that speaks to the safety conversation, right? Because
safety and privacy.
If you've got this application, the system that's got access to basically my pattern of thinking, the way I express myself, personal photos, work information, you want to know that it is safe to use.
Yeah, 100%. And it's in your power whether you want to expose that knowledge or not, right? Again, Apple have also integrated into ChatGPT. So the user does have an option to sort of use ChatGPT functionality within the operating system. However, Apple have this cool function or this cool protocol called private cloud compute.
How does that work, by the way? Because I'd made a note to talk about that.
It literally masks your identity, hides your IP address, and completely sanitizes your information, gets the response, gives you the response, and completely drops everything. So Apple's entire private cloud compute infrastructure has no storage. So no data is stored in the cloud. And this is completely verifiable independently. So Apple are saying anyone can audit or inspect the data centers, but there's absolutely no storage. We're not storing any information. We're just getting the response, and then we're purging all requests. So they wouldn't even have history of your requests of what you've asked on ChatGPT.
The other recurring issues about whether one needs to be super tech savvy to be able to work on these systems, or are you at a point where anyone will be able to use this?
I don't know. I guess I'd be biased here because I've been working on Apple equipment for the last 24 years. But I think if you've worked on an Apple device, I think you understand how intuitive the experience is and how you sort of don't have to look for certain things or buttons or features. And from our testing with the beta version of Apple Intelligence, it's at your fingertips. So it's almost going to prompt you to say, would you like to, there's a better way of doing this. You can, it's all going to be built into the workflow. So if you're typing out a document, if you're typing out an email, if you're using another application, if you're using the Notes application, the Photos application, and that's an interesting one actually, is another version of AI that's been there forever is photography on Apple devices. I don't know if you've ever taken a portrait picture on an Apple device.
Yes, I have.
That's machine learning. It's machine learning.
So I'm a skilled person.
Yeah.
I could use that to get a job.
Yeah, but it's machine learning, and it's a little bit of AI, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing to mention is that as much as all of this functionality is going to be available and native to the Apple operating system, Apple have released all of this, these APIs and these sort of developer stacks to third-party applications as well. So what we're going to see over the next couple of months. So any third-party application, so any application that's currently available on your phone on the App Store is going to have availability to use all of the Apple Intelligence functionality. So what we're going to see over time is all of our favorite apps that we use, maybe our games, maybe our productivity apps and our note-taking apps are going to have all of the intelligence tools.
Is that the same as syncing basically everything?
No. So they are redeveloping their apps using the Apple Intelligence tools to embed those tools into their apps. So it's not just going to be confined to Apple-developed apps. It's going to be available to everyone else. So I think the development we'll see in that space, in the gaming space, is going to be,
my head is
very exciting. It's going to be exciting.
So Sudesh, I picked up something, how you circled back to Siri, right? When you think of business, we often think of Siri as the friend that most of us use in our personal lives, but there is a role still for the corporate person.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I use Siri for work all the time. I'll be in the car and I'll be driving and I'll tell Siri to remind me to do something. I'll tell Siri to create a meeting invite. And that's available right now. I mean, I can tell Siri to create a meeting invite between you and I tomorrow at 1, or remind me to make a lunch reservation, or remind me to tell somebody something, because our lives have become so busy that keeping track of these tasks are crazy. And I don't know about you, but I'm not great with a pen and paper, so I don't take notes all the time.
Old school. I like a piece of paper. Look at it today.
I'm really bad. I don't have a pen in my bag right now. I don't know. I wouldn't know where to find a pen right now. But everything, all my data is on my devices and they're synced across my devices. So if I create a reminder on my iPhone and I'm working on my Mac later on this evening, it still prompts me. That notification still pops up.
Is that how Apple Intelligence then also answers the question around workflows? And being able to do that basically with a mere prompt.
And that cross-platform experience is going to be, I think, unparalleled. I think what people are going to find is that if I have the experience on my phone, I want it on all my devices. If I have the ability to use these tools on one device, I want it on all devices, right? And Apple are going to allow that, because whether it's iOS or macOS, all those tools are going to be available to you.
But if Apple Intelligence is so great in 2024 and is able to do all of this stuff, how do you make it better?
Again, I think it's unimaginable in terms of where AI is going, where machine learning is going, and what's going to be available to us in the next couple of months. If you just think of a product that's not launched in South Africa as yet, but we're hoping to get it next year, is the Vision Pro.
Okay.
If you just think about the context of spatial computing, from a healthcare perspective, from a surgical perspective, from a simulation perspective, if you are a pilot, if you are a race car driver, if you are a cardiothoracic surgeon, and you want to simulate an operation before you have to actually cut open a patient, or if you're a trainee and you actually need to train in something that's quite sort of intricate, and you have the ability to have this fully exposed experience before you actually get into the live event, I think it's going to completely accelerate adoption of certain skill sets. It's going to increase confidence. It's going to increase comfort level.
We could ultimately become more skilled people. Am I right?
100%. I think, and that's the negativity around AI. We always read these articles and these headlines about AI is going to replace jobs and people are going to be out of jobs. I think to a certain degree, probably. However, again, with the evolution of what jobs are going to be, I think AI could ultimately empower and enable us to be a lot more than we currently are. So I'm a glass half full type of guy. So I'm just thinking that if I'm this great right now, imagine how great I'm going to be with all of these tools available to me.
You talk about glass half full. I mean, I almost knocked over my glass of water. Do you guys have a system that help clean this up?
Not yet. I don't know about that, but not yet.
I want to talk about language, because that comes up a lot again when you look at Apple Intelligence, making it responsive, shall we say, especially to the needs of a population like ours, where there are multiple languages, 11 official languages spoken, even more accents when you consider all our socioeconomic backgrounds, etc. How do you then speak to that unique need?
I think so. What's available right now through Siri is Siri has become what you would call language and context aware. So previously, where you were interrupted or you cleared your throat, Siri would sort of forget what you're saying. Now you can speak very naturally to Siri. You can use ums and ahs and, oh no, scratch that or forget that, change it to this. And Siri is going to become very context aware. Right now, it's English from a South African perspective, and a lot of funny accents that are available from a language perspective. And then a lot of the major European languages have been supported in version 1. But hopefully the development around South African, our specific languages, gets developed and gets deployed into Apple Intelligence. I mean, that would ultimately change the game, I think.
It would be a game changer because people want that in South Africa. Everyone is more aware, right, of what diversity means in terms of product opportunities. And how do you think what you're working on now is going to improve the business experience?
The business experience improves by the personal experience improving. And that's the reality. If you can improve the productivity, the end user experience of your employees, I'd like to think that with all of this productivity and refinement and all of these things, that we would probably have a little bit more free time to either develop ourselves or to just sort of have a breather, because we're going to automate a lot of the administrative tasks and operational tasks that actually take up quite a bit of our time. So maybe we could use these tools to give back some time and to create a little bit more work-life balance. And I was talking about this yesterday, and I was saying that, I don't know, our parents and grandparents sort of came home at 4:30 or 4 o'clock, and that was it, right? Work was done and home time started. There was no laptop.
There was a clear line between the personal and the professional, and when it starts, when it ends.
Today, I'm not sure we know when it starts and when it ends.
Because we live on our devices.
It's all hybrid, and your work, your personal, everything is on your device. And the phone calls never stop. The WhatsApp messages never stop. The Teams messages never stop.
Can you protect us? Can you find a system to protect us?
I can't protect you, but we have to protect ourselves, right? And hopefully, with a better end user experience, with a lot more productivity, you can take back some of your time, right?
I spoke to you earlier about the ease of use. In a big business context, for instance, how would IT departments prepare themselves, for instance, to be able to roll out Apple Intelligence in a mass environment where there are so many people who may even be actually at different levels of understanding how things work?
So the beautiful part about this from a business perspective and from an IT perspective is right now there's nothing stopping you, because the AI or the intelligence is on device. So the data is not leaving the device. So as long as that device is secured by your organization, you know that that user and their device is protected because it's on device. So you can enable that end user experience and that productivity gain automatically just with an operating system upgrade within your organization. Where it gets complex for business is when you allow users to connect to cloud stores and data that is confidential. Because the last thing we want is me finding out what you earn because nobody has made that
privacy
data.
and protection.
100%, right? So giving access people to cloud stores where confidential data is and then not tagging that data correctly. So a large part of AI in business at the moment is to do with data and understanding the data. You'd be surprised how many big business don't even know where their data is. They don't even understand what data sort of exists where. So this whole cleanup and data tagging process is what's happening quite aggressively in business at the moment before intelligence tools can be deployed. The reality is what businesses understand now is that whether it's sanctioned or not, users are using AI, users are using ChatGPT, users are putting confidential company information into ChatGPT because we haven't educated them. We haven't enabled them. We haven't taught them about the responsibility around AI and around how to take care about their personal data and company data.
So how do businesses do that, right? Because I listened to an AI talk a few months ago where the man who on the panel was saying it's about companies future-proofing themselves and their staff for the future, because this is ultimately going to become an even bigger way in which we live and work.
We have to communicate and we have to train and we have to be transparent, right? I think what a lot of companies are trying to do is just say, it's blocked, don't use it, you're not allowed to use it, we're going to slap you on the wrist or...
Firewall.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is when people take their devices home, what firewall is at home? Nothing's at home. Me taking a picture of my laptop and then using my personal device to use ChatGPT to interrogate the text on that picture, nothing is really stopping that from happening, right? So education around AI and how to use the tool responsibly is critical. But ultimately, businesses have to protect their data and they have to have an understanding of what users have what access to data before they switch on all of these cloud.
So they can't avoid it, ultimately.
Yeah. So back to your question, from an IT perspective on Apple, nothing stops them from deploying Apple Intelligence right now. You could use tools like mobile device management, which are softwares that we control end user devices with. You could control the access people have to certain tools, what they can do, what they can't do, what access they have to cloud stores from their device, what data they're allowed to use with Apple Intelligence and what data they aren't. So Apple have enabled all of these IT controls and security controls in the operating system. So businesses really are well equipped to sort of enable those kinds of controls.
So a lot of business people, business managers are going to watch this conversation. As we conclude, I want to give you an opportunity then to perhaps convert those who are still not convinced that Apple Intelligence is the way to go. Why should they go that route for their organizations?
I think South African businesses as a whole need to consider Apple a lot more in their businesses. I think in South Africa, there's this perception that Apple is only for creative users. Apple is only for graphic designers and film people and
for the fun, creative
for the
people.
hippies, like without trying to insult anyone, but for those people. But the reality is, if you go into most businesses, what you'll find is the top executives are all using Apple devices, right? But when you ask these businesses, well, why haven't you given that advantage to all users? You would hear a number of different excuses and reasons that actually don't make sense whatsoever. IT people would like to tell you that, it's not compatible, it can't work on the network. If you had said that to me 10 years ago, sure. Today, 2024, no ways. Apple works across platform. Apple plays perfectly with Microsoft. The interoperability between apps works well. So I wouldn't say I want to convert people to Apple Intelligence, but what I will tell you is the experience on Apple devices is synonymous. The user experience, you very seldomly find a person that works on a Mac that says, I wish I had a PC. I'm going to go back to
if anything, Mac users tell you how they don't want to use any other device.
They'll never.
Once you go Mac, you never go back.
I think that's what scares a lot of businesses right now, right? Is because they realize that a large portion of their staff base will say, yes, I want a Mac, and they wouldn't know where to start. So, what we do as iStore Business to a large part is to enable those businesses. We help them get ready for an Apple deployment.
I suppose perception is also that because of the pricing, they're not practical devices to use. But ultimately, once you've got it, am I right to say that the benefit from using a Mac far outweighs what you would attribute to the financial aspect, if I can put it that way?
I don't know. It depends what you're comparing, right? I think 5 years ago, if you had used the blanket statement like Apple devices are more expensive or Macs are more expensive than PCs, I would have said, yeah, probably. Today, not so much. Apple doesn't play in the full wide spectrum of devices, I will say that. So we couldn't compare it to a 6,000 Rand laptop. You couldn't compare a Mac to a 6,000 Rand laptop. But at that pure knowledge worker level and up in a business context, the pricing is absolutely competitive.
Because you do most than a 6,000 Rand device.
Yeah, but in most examples, we see that Apples are cheaper than the PC counterparts right now.
Oh, wow.
Apple's move to their own silicon a couple of years ago has completely changed the game. Apple are not dependent on third-party manufacturers of chips. And the key advantage on Apple is really the build quality. Apple make the hardware, they make the software, and now they make the components that go into the computer, which means everything runs efficiently. 24-hour battery life on the new Macs on a single charge. PC users dream of more than 4 hours sometimes. They're always looking for plugs in coffee shops. But that's the reality, right? But I think people have there's this barrier about it's inaccessible.
Perception.
I wouldn't be able to use it. Yeah, it's perception, and it's like almost myth busting for Mac. Like the minute we go into organizations and we show and we demonstrate, and they get to experience the operating system and how it just looks a little bit different. The functionality is exactly the same. What you can do, copy, paste, all of those things. It's all there. It's all there. You just need that. We hate change. That's the problem, right? Like we don't want to change. But really that's the only constant. And if you look at the development that's happened over the years in South Africa, more and more non-traditional Apple businesses, if I can call them that, are deploying Mac at scale. We're seeing banks, financial services, large healthcare, pharmaceutical, all of them are deploying Mac at scale because they see. And back to the price, just because of the build quality, the total cost of ownership and the return on investment for business is major. Because what businesses don't tell you is they buy a laptop for 10,000 Rand or 12,000 Rand or 15,000 Rand, but over the 5-year lifespan of that laptop, they probably put in 80% of the value into repairs. They don't quantify the loss in productivity of that person being down because the battery has failed or because there's a problem on the screen or the repairs. With Apple, we don't see those errors. In a recent case study we did with a large financial services company that have thousands of Macs deployed, there was a 0.9% in-warranty failure on Mac devices over a 3-year period versus a 27% on PC. This is their data. They can't even begin to quantify how much of productivity loss they've had. And this was also during this is during our hybrid working environment.
Right.
So
just during the pandemic towards the end, right?
But even now, a lot of financial institutions have not gone back full time to the office. So they 3 days a week, they're hybrid. So are we working or are we Netflixing and chilling? We don't know. But,
sometimes Netflixing and chilling is work, Sudesh.
Well, I agree. It's research. we need to do our research, right?
Thank you so much, Sudesh Pillay. iStore Business Executive Head, Change Agent by night. Good to talk to you, Sudesh Pillay, speaking to us here on AI Impact Talk about what's going on in terms of Apple Intelligence. He's there with the iStore Business. He's the executive head there, as I was saying. We've got much more for you on our YouTube page in terms of conversations that we've had throughout these various weeks of this series, where you can go back and see what we've been able to glean from South African businesses in terms of what they are doing within the AI or artificial intelligence space. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.